Well, should we do this? We're gonna have some theme music. Maybe I'll put on some theme music.
If you have theme music,
Welcome to RM History Podcast.
dun, 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 dun. Yes.
If we did do theme music, I was thinking of we should do like the LDS at the end of the church videos. Do 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 do.
I'm pretty sure that's very copyrighted.
It's just a joke. Either that or like from the Living Scriptures, the Stripling Warrior one. I don't even remember that horn section.
I don't know. I mean, we watched it.
Do 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 do. I don't forget what it was.
Well, yeah, this is a clip of it at the beginning.
Well, hi, this is RM History. Josh. Josh is my little brother.
Yes.
How you doing, Josh?
I'm good. I'm the baby bro. I've been supporting you along your whole journey, Talmud.
Yeah.
So what's the main goal of this video or this podcast, Talmud? What are we going to be talking about today?
Yeah, I mean, well, let's see. It's basically what my channel is, right? We're going to talk about, at least this series, we're going to talk about the Book of Mormon battles through the lens of two military history nerds, and I mean, Josh and I are both pretty nerdy people.
Yes.
I guess, I think a lot of people listening could relate.
Look, if you're on camera or you've seen the video, you can see behind me, I have super nerd stuff on my
Oh yeah, you got your Warhammer.
I'm a
figurines.
wargamer, miniature guy. And I was the weird one when I went on my mission and we had Book of Mormon classes. I was always excited for the war chapters. And I would always get up and I would draw the map out. I'd be like, here's what's going on. Here's the history. Here's why this decision point is important. Like contextual.
I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, I did every time. That my now wife was actually served in the same area and she thought I was really weird for doing that.
Well, let's be real. I think a lot of people listening still at this point would probably wish that was Sunday school was like. This is what this podcast is supposed to be.
That's right.
Well, you wish the War Chapter Sunday school lesson was like.
Yes, we are here for you during those few weeks of Come Follow Me, where they cover the war chapters.
Yeah, and I'll share my nerd story. So Josh has been to some of these, but I'm to the point, I mean, obviously I listen to a lot of podcasts and nonfiction books. I also throw once a year, I throw a Gettysburg commemoration party. Josh has been to that one.
Yes.
The Battle of Midway commemoration party where we reenact things. Anyway, so pretty passionate about it. But yeah, so this podcast, we're going to talk about the Battle of Mulek. Now, there's a lot of reasons why we're starting here. I won't get into them here, but it just seems a very natural place. This is, where are we, Josh? Alma 52?
I think it's Alma 52 is where we're going to start our discussion.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is almost in the middle of what I call the War of 7 Years. I can't call it the 7 Years War because that's actually a different war in history. Yes. We'll call it the War of 7 Years. I guess we'll give a brief overview. Josh, do you want to take a shot at giving a brief overview of this?
Yes. So I guess before chapter 52, right? This is when Amalickiah goes around to the Lamanites and he stirs them all up. He goes and gets Lahontai down. He poisons him by degrees. He gets a massive army. He goes to the queen and is like, hey, he kills the king and then he goes in and marries the queen of the Lamanites. Yeah. And so super political savvy, super savvy guy at politicking, and like he basically has the Lamanites under his thumb, and he's like, all right, now that I have this massive army, I'm gonna go take over the Nephites. So he goes up the east.
Well, hey, and by the way, I think I'll probably put it on the video here and we'll link it too, but Josh and I made this cool timeline. Yes. And it kind of for this War of 7 Years, which is where we're starting right now. And there's also a link to a map we can show. But yeah, Josh, go ahead.
Let me see if I can share screen so we can talk about it.
But yeah.
While we're going. I'm going to see if it works. Let me know. Okay, do you see it?
I do see it.
Okay, so this is the map or the timeline that Tom was just talking about. We made this quite a few years ago. There's a lot going on here, but drawing your attention, I guess, just briefly, if you're watching video, we have the Eastern Theater up here in the top. You have the Central Theater where Zarahemla is in the middle, and then you have the Southern Theater down here on the bottom. So up here in the Eastern Theater, Amalickiah comes in with his huge army. Blue signifies Nephite lands or Nephite cities, and red is when the Lamanites take it over. So Lamanites come in and they take over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cities in rapid succession, like super fast, like it's a blitz. All right, that's what I think of. As Malachi just comes up, he goes along the coast, and he just takes out these 6 cities, and he's gunning for Bountiful, but then he runs into someone.
And he runs into
Teancum,
which we can't get into, but I think it's important to know that Teancum, him and his small little force, they basically stop him. They just stop them somehow, and I wish there was more info, but keep that in mind. So basically, they stop Amalekiah's invasion into Bountiful, and while they're camping, Teancum sneaks in and murders Amalekiah.
Yes.
And that freaks out the Lamanites, and they run back to Mulek, right? This is where the battle we're going to talk. They all run back into Mulek. Anyway, and part of the reason, too, I'll get into this, that Amalekiah was so successful this first year is because Moroni's got his hands full back home with a civil war with the kingmen, right? I don't think it's an accident, but we won't get into that, right? And so then after Amalekiah is killed, his brother Ammoron takes over, but he leaves a garrison in Mulek. And then he goes back to the Lamanite lands, gets his second army, and then the second year, as Josh is pointing out here on the screen, he goes through and he takes 4 more cities. And eventually
totally different theater, though.
Yeah, different theater, correct. A different area of the Nephite lands. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is something that I think is super important when laying the groundwork of the war chapters, is that Moroni wasn't always going toe-to-toe with the chief captain of the Lamanites. Like, Moroni was only one person, and there were 3 different theaters of the war going on. So Moroni wasn't even there when Amalekiah came in first. Moroni was with the kingmen, doing that kind of stuff. And then did Moroni go down to the south to deal with Ammoron?
Yeah, he did. Eventually he went down and stopped Ammoron in the south. And anyway, and then toward the end of the second year, actually no, I have it unfiltered in mine. It's toward the end of the third year is when Moroni actually goes to where Teancum is, up to where Mulek is. And I think one thing I like to point out before we get into like actual Mulek, the Battle of Mulek, is in the broader perspective, the first year, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of rapid territory changes. Same with the second year. And there's this first phase of just a lot of, oh my goodness, what's happening? Lots of changes. But then there's a phase 2. And in fact, this third year, almost nothing happens.
There's nothing going on for a whole year.
Yeah. And the rest of the war, so the first 2 years are a lot of rapid moving pieces. And then the rest of the war is this grinding, slow, attritional phase. You see this pattern in a lot of wars in history. There's many wars that are like this. Probably the simplest ones to think of are World War I, a lot of big movement, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's trenches, for almost the rest of the war till the end. Same with the modern day war of Ukraine. The first year, a lot of moving territory, but then it kind of ground down to this attritional phase. So I think that's also good context to have as we talk about the Battle of Mulek. We are actually starting the 4th year of this conflict in Mulek, and we're in this slow attritional phase. Even though it's just one city, it's a pretty critical moment in the whole progress of the war.
And something I wanted to bring up before we get into the battle that's upcoming is when Amalekah was assassinated in Alma 52 verse 1, like, here's what it says. And now it came to pass that in the 26th year of the reign of the judges, or the people of Nephi, behold, when the Lamanites awoke on the first morning of the first month, behold, they found Amalekah was dead in his own tent. And they also saw that Teancum was ready to give them battle on that day. So I think it was a seminary teacher who was like, you got to think about these Lamanites, the ancient people. They had all kinds of signs and like potents and shamans and all that kind of stuff. So the Lamanite, the first day of the year, their king, who looked like an invincible man, is dead. And they wake up to see Teancum and his special forces, veteran troops, ready to like annihilate them. So like that must have been a shock to the Lamanite system. And I think that like ground their blitz into the ground. They couldn't move anymore because they lost all momentum. So one question I have for you, Talmadge, is, has there ever been a situation like that in other wars where the military leader is killed and it just like stops the progression of the army?
Yeah, I can't think of one off the top of my head. I would think it's pretty common. I'll do deeper research in that. Maybe we'll bring it up next time. I like what you're saying though. Is like I think what you're alluding to. What I think is also kind of cool is it was on the first day of the year, and I think don't underestimate the psychological power of omens on the ancient world. I think this is important. I think this will actually play a part in the what we're going to talk about because I mean the event you're talking about, Josh, was happening like what 2 years ago from what we're gonna this
Mm-hmm.
Battle of Mulek. Yeah, don't underestimate the impact
Yeah.
of this psychological thing.
I
You
think
know,
because Amaron took over, right? His brother took over, and he immediately left, but he
yeah, he
left
didn't.
most of the army there. And I'm like, that's probably intentional because I bet that Layman army is just like psychologically destroyed.
Yeah,
They're just like,
maybe.
we
Yeah,
can't do anything. And so he's like, I got to get out of here. I got to try a
they're
different
spooked.
tactic.
They're
Yeah.
spooked.
So he gets a whole new army and goes somewhere else, right?
I can't get distracted though. We got to.
I know.
There's a
I'm
lot we
sorry.
could talk about. We'll talk about Mulek. Yeah, it's a good point though. And so what happens is toward the end of the third year, Moroni, who's been busy in the southern front, okay, he comes over here to the eastern front to Mulek. And what struck me is like, okay, why? It's just I don't know. I don't know the answer. But Moroni, why did Moroni choose to do that? Why is he over here now? What's so important about this area versus the southern theater? You know?
Active. Yeah. Or they were last active. The Layman's were last active in South. Why did he go back to the
Yeah.
East?
And I mean, I think Amron was still down there too, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, not only that, but I feel like Moroni brings Lehi with him, I believe. And so Moroni's got the A team on this front in the east.
Left Tiankum. I think he left
Yeah.
Tiankum in the East. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's coming back to Tiankum
Yep.
with Lehi, Captain
Yep.
Lehi. We got Captain Moroni, Captain Lehi, Tiankum. These are the all stars, man. At least who Mormon probably considers to be the all stars.
While we're talking about Tiankum, I got to mention, do you remember when we were kids and we played StarCraft LAN parties, StarCraft Brood War, and Cameron's friend Jeff, his name was Tiankum.
Oh,
I
yeah.
always remember that. Like I was too young to like really understand the war chapters, but then when I started reading it in seminary, I was like, "What, Jeff? It's Tiankum?" I'm like, "Tiankum is so cool! Like this is an awesome name."
Well, Cameron, he did like Laconius, and he did someone else in the Gadianton Wars, which is like a few hundred years.
Oh yeah,
from when
like
we're talking about.
Gidgidoni or something.
Gidgideoni. I don't know. But anyway, I guess they're pretty nerdy too. We got nerdy
They were
brothers.
nerdy before we were nerdy, Tommy.
Anyway, so like yeah, Moroni's here with the A team. Maybe I think there's a case to be made that this is a pretty remote area from Zarahemla. You know, I think it takes a while to get there. Is Moroni concerned about the Lamanites getting over their spook and just solidifying control of this area? Because they got a lot of cities under control all along the coast.
The land of Bountiful, right, is key strategy. I think it mentions it several times throughout the war chapters that Moroni does not want the Lamanites to take Bountiful because he knows if they do that, the Nephites are in big trouble because then they'll get surrounded, right? And so Bountiful is like this key strategic place. And that's probably why Tiankum was there in the first place. And so I see it as Moroni's like, okay, we've been in a stalemate for about a year. I got to shake things up. I need to bring my veteran commanders and probably their veteran troops. Like I need my
yeah, he did bring reinforcements with him.
My reinforcements, my people who know how to fight. I'm going to come up here, and I think it's a defeat in detail strategy. Like I have to consolidate and start taking out these chunks of Lamanites little by little when I have the superior advantage in that moment.
Yeah. I mean, perhaps I think so. I think that's probably part of his calculus. All I can do is speculate for sure. And I'll dive into this one thing because I think for actually a number of years, a few years from now, we keep jumping around. I'm sorry to the listener, but so Moroni arrives here, and then he gets a letter from Helaman 2 years from now. So there's been 2 years where he has been in the Eastern Theater that we're talking about, and Helaman just updates him on everything that's happened over the past 2 years in the Southern Theater.
Well, Moroni's been gone. Yep.
Yeah, and this has kind of bugged me a little bit because I was like, well, if Moroni's in charge of the overall war, and he doesn't know what's been happening on the Southern Theater for 2 years, that's like almost criminal negligence, right? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And so it's actually bugged me for a few years. I was
So
like,
Moroni was the chief commander, but
yeah, he's the chief captain, but he didn't
apparently he
know.
didn't care about the Southern Theater.
It's like, don't you know about communication? Like, and so, but then it struck me actually a few months ago, like, okay, unless he left overall strategy and supply planning to the government in Zarahemla, maybe that's why.
Maybe Zarahemla said, "Okay, Moroni, you need to go back up to Eastern Theater, take care of it. Don't worry about the South anymore."
Yeah, who knows what Pehorin said, but I think there's a case also to be made that I think this tactical level, this defeat in detail stuff, Josh, you're talking about, I think this is where Moroni shines the most. I mean, let's be honest, it's not. Sure, he did a lot of cool things building up these fortifications and stuff, but at this point in the war, 9 or 10 of those cities are now in charge of covered by the Lamanites.
All this hard work.
Like, this is like a strategic disaster,
Yeah.
I don't know. So perhaps Moroni understands this. He's like, I got to do what I do best,
Get in the, yeah.
But total speculation on my part.
I mean, you got to think about the generals. He's a general who's on the front lines. I guess
he's fighting on the front
lines. Talking about this battle, He does get wounded in the Battle of Mulek. So
we keep giving away.
I know.
Giving away.
We got to talk about things. Okay, let's jump in here. We keep talking. We keep going around this. So early part of year 4, Moroni tries asking Jacob to come out and fight.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
What is that verse? Let's see, chapter 52, verse 19 through 20.
Yeah, and so it's funny, petitions like this, they just happen all the time throughout history, all the time, and usually it doesn't work. It's like basically like, hey, do you want to come out and fight in the open? And people are like, no, I don't want to.
Why did he even ask? Like, why do you think he asked?
Well, but I said it didn't work all the time. Sometimes it probably did. I don't have exact samples, but I mean, you try to appeal to their honor sometimes. I think some cultures that was a bit stronger, perhaps. Like, come on out. And funny enough, I looked this up. The Mongols, actually, it was like they would send these petitions to the city. And one, it was like, you can totally surrender the city and we won't harm you. 2, you could come out and fight us in the open if you want to try. And these results would happen, which are a little less ideal for you. Or you can stay behind your walls and we will kill everybody. We will destroy your city. And so they did this psychological pressure. And I don't know how often it worked where they got the armies to come out and try, but.
Yeah. Verse 21, it says, "And it came to pass that Moroni, having no hopes of meeting them on fair grounds, therefore he resolved upon a plan that he might decoy the Lamanites out of their stronghold." Part of me is like, Moroni knew Jacob the Zoramite wouldn't come out with the army. He's like, okay, I'm going to send this and I'm going to make it think like we're going to be sitting here for a while. I'm like, we're going to have a prolonged siege. But he has an ulterior motive, right? Of like, I have this other plan I'm going to put in effect like right after. And so Jacob the Zoramite is like, oh, they're going to come siege. But then Moroni has a totally different plan that he's going to enact.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Like, you're getting like, maybe he's trying to do like, what's that called? Double tricking. What's the word I'm thinking of? It's reverse psychology.
Yes.
Is that is that kind of what you're implying?
I think so, because yeah, I'm implying that because it says in verse 20 that Moroni was like, hey, come out with your armies upon the plains between the 2 cities. But behold, Jacob, who was a Zoramite, would not come out with his army to meet them on the plains. Because he's like, I'm in this safe, secured location. I don't need to come out. But Moroni wants to fight me. So he's going to be out there for a while. And he's going to probably lay siege. I have all my food supplies from the past year of nothing going on. Like, I'm going to sit here for a while. Jacob doesn't even suspect that Moroni is going to do anything else besides sit there. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, interesting. I guess I probably disagree. I think he just tried it just because it was worth a shot. Yeah. Like maybe it could work. Yeah, I'm actually picturing in Monty Python, trying to be provocative or taunting, which also happened in other areas of history. Like, your mother was a hamster and your father smelled of elderberries. Come out, That's interesting. Oh, yeah, I don't know. But so what happens next in verse 21 to 24? Tinkham. So what happens is they actually do dangle the bait. Yankum goes out with a small force, okay, and he hangs out there. And Jacob comes out, and they go get him. They try to get him, right?
Try to get Tiankim.
Now, what's interesting and what's funny is, I mean, I think this is a perfectly valid tactic by Jacob. This is
defeat in detail. Jacob wants to defeat in detail to
right.
Tiankim.
And
makes sense.
This is it's what's called sortie, coming out and attacking a smaller force from your fortified position. This is actually the same tactic the Nephites did against the Gadiantans like 80 years from now. It's used throughout all military history. It's perfectly valid to do that and try to like, oh, small force, let's get them quick before they get away. But what happens is Tiankim starts to run away from Jacob, and this is the critical mistake Jacob makes, is that he kept pursuing. Jesus. So the question is why did he do that when he knew the Nephites wanted him to be out in the open?
I mean, just thinking of this now is the Lamanites, they've been stuck there for what, 2 years? They haven't done anything. They've probably just been bugging the local populace and making a nuisance. Like, they're bored. And they're like, oh, there's a fight. Like, let's go fight. Right?
Totally. I actually made the same note here.
Okay. So it's like he didn't have control over his army. He's like, okay, let's just go then.
Yeah. And you know what I thought of actually is the Gettysburg, the movie. And let's see what he say. The boys got the dander up.
They got
the boys want to hold back. You know that part, General Heath?
Yes. They got the dander up.
Yeah. And Lee's like, things will get confusing, General. That is why we have orders. It is possible you may have misunderstood them.
Yes. Oh man, that's a good one.
And so, yeah, I think that could be part of it, right? I think it's so funny. I was looking this up. It's hard to resist a fleeing army. It's just hard. In fact, so I was reading up on the Battle of Hastings. I don't know what year it was, but it was a few hundred years from when this one was. But so essentially, there was these Anglo-Saxons on the hill, the English, and the Normans, the Northern French, were invading. Anyway, so the Anglo-Saxons on the hill, the Normans had a lot of heavy cavalry, some infantry, some archers, whatever. So they were trying to go up on the hill and kick out the Anglo-Saxons and defeat them. And the first time a section of the Norman line actually buckled and started to run down the hill. And the Anglo-Saxons, naturally, on that portion of the line, started pursuing them. And then when they got to the bottom of the hill, the Norman cavalry went in and boom, smacked them and smacked the Anglo-Saxons back up the hill. And so William the Conqueror, the Norman, was like, oh, that's interesting. And so he purposely did fake retreats like 2 to 4 more times in the battle. And every time the Anglo-Saxons did it, every time. So there's probably other examples too, but the whole point that I think we're both getting at is like, these guys were bored and there's a prey. And Jacob's like, well, hold on. Okay, I guess we're going.
It's also like the most casualties in warfare. Like in Hollywood, it shows everyone dies and there's like 2 people left after the battle. But in reality, it was like you didn't have a lot of casualties in the battle until someone ran away. And that's when the casualties happened, is when they ran, you just come in and you just chop them in the back, right?
Chop in the back or they surrender, right? Yeah, one of those two.
So, Jacob is pursuing Tiankim, and Tiankim is going where? He's going north, back to Bountiful.
Yeah, but before we leave this, I think there's another possible explanation for why Elaine might still do this critical mistake of pursuing Tiankim. I'm going to quote, actually, there's this book. I'll probably send it to you, Josh. It's called Captain Moroni's Command. It's by David E. Spencer. Scripture Central, they quote him this way: who has a unique background that combines U.S. Army experience with an academic and professional expertise in defense studies. So he wrote this cool book about the 7 Years' War. What?
We need to be his friend.
We do. I actually tried to reach out to him the other year, but he didn't get out to me. Didn't respond. But he makes a really interesting point about this, and I'm going to read it. And Josh, you already broke the rule I told you about, but we have to read quotes in the Dan Carlin voice. So I'm going to give it a go here. So David Spencer points out, in order to draw out the entire Mulek garrison out to attack a small Nephite force, knowing they'd refused to meet outside the city earlier, would have required Moroni to dangle an irresistible prize in front of them. It's quite possible that was Tiankim himself. Sending Tiankim at the head of a small, weak force must have been more than Jacob the Zormite could resist. As anyone who led the force that killed Tiankim, the man who assassinated Amalickiah, was sure to receive great honor and promotion.
Hey.
Interesting thought from David, I would say.
It's
Tiankim. It's like, I mean, there's this guy, Jacob, Tiankum out there that spooked them 2 years ago. And like you said, Jess, they've been bored. And maybe Jacob's like, okay, we can snap this spell. If I could get Tiankum, that would be
Oh,
such a game changer. So maybe Tiankum was purposely the bait.
he dangled Tiankum. Okay.
Perhaps. I think it's a cool idea.
That
Anyway,
is a cool idea.
you're gonna keep us moving here.
Public enemy number one, Tiankum, is running
Yeah.
with his small special forces.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jacob is chasing, willingly or not, we can only speculate, chasing him. And while Tiankum is running, Moroni had hidden part of his army that he commanded in the
Yeah, so we
wilderness.
got two Nephite forces so far.
So far we got two Nephites. One Nephite going up. The other
Tiankum going
Nephites
up.
are staying next to Mulek. So Jacob and his army leave, and there's a little garrison. Jacob is smart. He leaves a little garrison behind, but Moroni comes in with his army and totally decimates it real fast. Takes over the city and leaves a small garrison, and then chases Jacob.
So close, Josh. I think there's important detail here
Okay,
that I think is interesting. Is that so? Yeah, you're right. Moroni is hiding and waiting for the bait to work.
Yeah,
and then Moroni actually he splits his force again.
Oh, before taking the city.
There's three forces now.
Yes.
And it's actually a subsection of Moroni's force. And
we don't
the
know
larger
the
part.
Yeah, we don't know who commanded that one.
Yeah, we don't know.
The garrison.
Yeah. So I think this is interesting. Well, first I'll answer the first question I have was, well, I'll see what you think. Like, okay, why was the city so easy to take? I mean, obviously there was less people there. Maybe there were the remaining guards that were left, there was just too few to block all the entrances effectively, perhaps. I also have this other theory, Josh, that the further away you are from the Lamanite border, the less impressive the Nephite fortifications are.
100%. 100%.
I think it's just the law of limited resources and where you put your emphasis.
Yeah.
And we'll hear this later. Bountiful, which is a little further north, like has no fortifications at all.
Because it's like unheard of for the Lamanites to come up that far until now. Like,
yeah.
They're living their nightmare.
Anyway, so maybe, but then again, the Lamanites did have 2 years to make them build them up if they wanted to. Anyway, those are just two ideas I have. Though, here's the question, Josh: why didn't Moroni just go right into the city with all of his force and just wait there? Why do you think? Why didn't he just do that?
Why didn't he just take the city? Because
the Lamanites would have to come back
eventually, and then they would just. Well, the problem is, Moroni needs to take out this army. It says later on in this chapter or the next that this was the biggest Lamanite army in the area. Like, Mulek had the biggest Lamanite army, and he needs to take it out. And so I think, we'll talk about the rest of this is the middle of the strategy going on, but he's going to wear out the Lamanite army by chasing him up. They're going to meet another army, right? Another Nephite army. And they're going to run away. And like, he's trying to exhaust the biggest army, because if they're exhausted, they will not fight very well, right?
Yeah.
So,
but also, you're right. I mean, I think this is a good point you're making, that this Mulek garrison, they're no joke. These guys took 6 or 7 cities 2 years ago. They're no joke. Army. And that makes them a big threat, but also a big opportunity, a huge opportunity. So let's say Moroni did just stay in the city of Mulek, and Jacob goes up there. He's like, oh shoot, and then he's like, okay, I'm just gonna go further south to the next city. He just avoids Moroni. What's it called? Gid. Yeah. Now, Jacob would have done that, and this huge garrison would just be in the next city behind the fortified wall, because slightly bigger, and also a lot more cautious.
A lot more. Yeah, you can't pull off this trick again.
Right. Yeah. And at the same time, the Lamanites, they would be a bit closer back to their Lamanite lands. Basically, David makes this point too. Yeah. The supply lines get shorter for the Lamanites. They're contracting their supply lines. At the same time, the Nephites would have to extend their supply line.
And I see what you're saying. This is the best opportunity to destroy a Lamanite army, because it's the furthest away. I get it.
So now, to quote Clausewitz, who you don't know,
I don't
is
know.
a Prussian general, a very famous one, military theorist and strategist from the early 1800s. I'm going to break the Dan Carlin rule and do a German accent.
Okay.
He said, "The destruction of the enemy forces is the overriding principle of war." Pretty good. Like,
okay, Elder Uchtdorf, that's pretty good.
Elder Uchtdorf. So yeah, like, and so I think that's the point I'm trying to make, right? He's like, Moroni, he sent a small force to take the city because that is secondary to him.
The army is the primary. Okay.
Jacob and his army, that's the goal. That is the opportunity that he just can't pass up,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
This whole time I'm thinking Mulek is the target, but I think you're right. Like the army is the reason that they're in this mess. They need to take the army.
It's the people. It's like Clausewitz says, you defeat the enemy forces. You can't get caught up in territory and cities too much, Anyway, okay.
Well, that relates to another battle that comes up years later where he just goes straight up through to Zarahemla and get
that's right.
into Bountiful. He's like, I want to take the capital, and then he just gets surrounded and dies.
We'll do another episode on that one. I forget that guy's name. Anyway, so Teancum. Anyway, so what do we have now, Josh, right? We have Teancum luring away Jacob, and behind them now is coming Moroni, and Jacob doesn't know this.
And then, let's see, 24, 26. I also, as we go through this, we're going into verse 26. Moroni now has 3 separate army groups.
And now the fourth
is Lehi.
Lehi, Captain Lehi.
I got Lehi is my favorite. Lehi, Captain Lehi. I give sacrament meeting talks about Lehi. Okay.
Oh, you have?
Yes.
You do.
I can apply him.
Do people invite you? You go around your steak?
No, when people give me like the floor or like choose your own topic, it's always Lehi. Like be a Lehi and just show up when you're needed. Like you don't have to be a Moroni every day, but you can just be a Lehi and show up.
All right, Josh. Why is Lehi militarily? Tell me about Lehi. What? Because here's what happens, right? I'll read it, verse 28. I'll do it in my Mormon voice. And now behold, when the chief captains of the Lamanites had beheld Lehi with his army coming against them, because Teancum just led them to Lehi's army now, they fled in much confusion, as in Jacob's army fled, lest perhaps they should not obtain the city of Mulek before Lehi should overtake them, for they were wearied because of their march, and the men of Lehi were fresh.
Yes.
Lehi has a reputation, doesn't he, Josh?
He does have a reputation because he helped
Captain Lehi, to be clear.
He's
Captain
been
Lehi.
with Captain Moroni for all of his big battles, right? He's like Captain Moroni's right-hand man. What was the first battle they did?
So the first battle they did was Battle of Manti, which is 10 years previous from what we're talking about here. We can do a different one on that, but also the Noah, the siege
city of
and
Noah.
the disaster.
City of Noah was a slaughter of the Lamanites.
That was 9 years previous to this.
Yeah. So they know Lehi. They know his
and in
reputation.
fact, sorry to jump in. Yeah, back then the Lamanites feared Lehi exceedingly, even back 9 years previously.
Yes.
So anyway, that's my speculation, and it sounds like yours too. Like they're scared of Lehi, and maybe that's also on purpose.
Like they want to kill Teancum, but they're freaked out by Lehi.
But but not to downplay Teancum a little too much, because here's the other thing too. It's like even if they we're making the case that they knew it was Lehi and they're scared of him, but also even if they didn't know it was Lehi,
right?
Even though Mormon seems to imply they do, but let's say they didn't. All of a sudden, this same army group is nearing the same area where Teancum had whooped them 2 years before, right?
There could be graves or corpses.
Or there could be bones. I don't know. Corpses hanging around still. Yeah, it's just like 2 years ago. And again, where the Malachi got ruined and where their whole world changed, like these Lamanites were 2 years ago. Yeah. So I have in here bad vibes. And this is where I had quoted. Don't underestimate the impact of bad vibes in ancient warfare. Yeah, we already talked about this. So like they're probably like, one, oh my gosh, it's Lehi. And two, this is starting to feel like a trap.
Yep.
Like something is wrong.
Either Jacob finally realizes or he finally gets control of his army enough to be like, guys, we got to get out of here. Like, this is not good.
Yeah, and to be fair, Lehi's army was fresh.
Yes.
Jacob was tired.
Yeah.
There's
speaking of that exhaustion mechanic, right? I play a game called Total War. That's where I get the video clips for your videos. There's a mechanic in there about exhaustion, that if you run your troops too much or they're fighting too long, they get exhausted and their stats, like their ability to fight, like drops so fast. Like if you have an exhausted army, you get annihilated so fast. So the Laman army is exhausted.
I will point out that is a factor in many computer games, including Civil War Generals, which our dad used to play in the East.
Yep. Awesome. Stamina. It's very important.
Anyway, so Jacob's like, man, we're bushed. We got to get out of here. We can't
Yeah.
do a battle right
Jacob's
now.
exhausted. Teancum is exhausted. Lehi's fresh. Moroni is sort of fresh.
Right.
And we'll get into that, right?
Jacob doesn't go far south. He doesn't run south very far when it's like, shoot. He runs into Moroni. Okay? And
So at verse 31, and it came to pass that before the Lamanites had retreated far, they were surrounded by the Nephites, by the men of Moroni from the south, right, on the one hand, and the men of Lehi from the other, from the north, all of whom were fresh and full of strength, but the Lamanites were wearied because of their long march. Now, riddle me this. Why is Moroni's army fresh when they just ran the same distance that Jacob's army did?
yeah, I wonder how close it is, because what we're about to see is Moroni and Jacob duke it out for a little bit before Lehi gets there. So, and we don't know what Mormon means by not very far, that Jacob ran away. It's a fair question. That crossed my mind too.
And this is probably the riskiest part of his plan. Moroni is out there by himself with his small force going against this massive Lamanite army. He needs Lehi to show up or he's dead. Or Moroni's dead.
Well, yeah, you're right, Josh. I think this is a very risky part of the whole operation, but I don't think it's the only risky part now, because so like I was listening to another podcast, and basically splitting your forces, like Moroni has done, what, 4 times now?
4 different groups.
Four different groups. Okay, so there are historical examples of when armies do this that it's just a disaster, just really bad. Probably the most famous one is probably like Little Bighorn. Okay. There's a bajillion others. In fact, I think the examples of disasters are greater than the examples of just tremendous victories when people pull this off. Another historical example of this would be Chancellorsville in the American Civil War, where the Confederates split their forces, their smaller force. It's just so risky, you know?
Yes.
But again, like, I think maybe we can just let people understand that they can come to their own conclusions on why it's risky. It's like you got your forces split all over the place.
This is a big gamble by Moroni, and I think
the timing has to be right.
The timing has to be perfect, and I think he has so much trust in his commanders. Like, he knows Teancum will do the job. He knows Lehi will do the job. Like, he's like, I know these guys. I've been with them for 10 plus years. We fought so many battles. I know they're going to show up.
Yeah. So yeah, this Battle of Mulek, and if you rewind 10 years to the Battle of Manti, it's just got the Moroni touch all over it. You know, like, here's what he's done. Just to reiterate what's happening here. It's like, this is the perfect scenario for the Nephites. 1, the Lamanites are in the open. Great. 2, Lamanites are surrounded. They're not going anywhere. This prize that they're after is right there, you know. 3, the Lamanites are gassed. They're exhausted. Their stamina's down, like you're talking about. 4, they're shaken. They're like, what is happening? We keep running all over the place and keep getting surprised. And then 5, the Nephites are fresh. Yeah, I guess we can debate how fresh the Moroni's men are. But here's something else interesting is Teancum isn't mentioned in this whole part. Like, I don't think we can rule them out that they didn't join Lehi and join in this fight, but I think it's also possible they just
I think they're done.
Took a rest.
Because, I mean, could you imagine being Teancum's men being like, I am here to die, basically? Like, the intent is... I'm bait. Like, that is so concerning. I bet once they get to Lehi, they're like, okay, we're done. Our part is done here.
And maybe to go back to the other point you were making, a question you had is like, I'm sure Teancum's men were like sprinting and Jacob's men were sprinting to catch up. Whereas perhaps Moroni's guys have been like, there's a difference between sprinting and marching.
Moroni was like, okay, we're going to be marching. Like, they're ready. They're ready to go. Jacob's men are just running. Anyway,
so here Jacob's in this really bad path, and he basically doesn't have much choice. Either surrender or he's like, what does he say? He tries to cut through Moroni back to the city. That's his only choice. And it's just, Moroni has put him in the worst situation. You know, I just think Moroni's tactically brilliant. I don't know how he pulled this off twice, you know, in Manti and here. It's just, he's got some skills. He's got a great team.
And just reading some of the verses here, verse 34. But behold, Moroni and his men were more powerful. Therefore, they did not give way before the Lamanites. 35. And it came to pass that they fought on both hands with exceeding fury. And there were many slain on both sides. Yea, and Moroni was wounded, and Jacob was killed. So, like, the fury, right, on both sides. Like, the Nephites are angry because they're in their lands. Some of these men are probably from Mulek. or the lands
Perhaps.
that were
Yeah.
taken over, and they're like, man, we are mad at you. The Lamanites are mad because they just made you run. They were treated like fools, and now they're just like, we got to get out of here. So
The Lamanites are desperate too, and
yeah, they're
desperate things
desperate.
happen when you feel like you're surrounded and you don't have an
So
escape.
that brings me to my question: when Lehi comes in from the rear, right from the north, and hits,
Oh, yeah, that's coming. Yes.
they are surrounded at that point. And I've heard that you should always leave a space for your enemies to escape, otherwise you'll face really fierce resistance.
Yeah,
So,
it's Sun Tzu said
yeah, what
that
is
in
that?
the Art of
Art
War.
of War.
Yeah, yeah. And I think
So
who's the guy that wrote Wheel of Time? He actually
Robert
mentions this.
Jordan.
It's one of the battles where I think Matt Cawthon is starting to get when you first discover
Yes.
his military genius, and that's one of the things he points out surrounding
Yes.
that.
Like
This
it's
is
a
just a
common thing.
common thing. Yeah.
But Moroni, I feel like
Even-
Moroni keeps surrounding the Lamanites. Like he keeps doing this. Like he did it 10 years ago, and
Mhm.
they fight really hard for the last
Lamanites.
little bit. Like,
Mhm.
is it worth the risk? Like, why does Moroni keep doing this when he knows he's going to lose a lot of good men in the last little bit of the battle?
Well, I mean, what's the other option? We already talked about it. Well, let them run away and go to the next city.
Like he needs to beat him so bad and make him
Like
freak out so much and force surrender.
War is tough. Like war is tough, and people are going to die. But if you can get your enemy surrounded, and the situation he has, I mean, there's trade offs to everything.
Yeah.
But you just get this one quick punch, boom.
He's like, it's going to be painful, but
it's going to be painful. This is war, and we got to take care of these guys. You know.
Yeah.
So I think the benefits greatly outweigh this risk. You know.
Yeah. Because what I see here in verse 36. Lehi comes in from the rear with such fury with strong men that the Lamanites in the rear delivered up the weapons of war, and the remainder of them, being much confused, knew not where to go or to strike.
Now, that's pretty common.
Yeah, Moroni, seeing their confusion, he said unto them, "If you bring forth your weapons, we'll stop the fight." So what I think is interesting is, like, how big is this Lamanite army? Because
I don't know.
Lehi comes in, and only part of the army realizes that they're doomed. They're like, this is not good. We just got hit in the rear. Like, I give up. Well, the whole time while Moroni's still fighting for his life down there. But then finally word spreads through. Like, how small was the Nephite army compared to the Lamanites? Like, what was the ratio?
Think I have no idea. Yeah, I don't think we know. What I'm thinking, striking me right now is, I mean, when you're fighting with your buddies, fighting this other guy, I've never done this, but imagine your blinders are on. You're just focused on the guy in front of you. And also, what's striking me right now is, I think the ones that are fighting so furiously are probably the most motivated Lamanites, right? Yeah. They're the most motivated that Jacob can really rile up to try this. The guys in the
Jacob's
rear,
honor guard.
Yeah, the guys in the rear are like, I'm gonna let these guys go first, and then all of a sudden they get hit. Yeah, so I'm just realizing, of course, they're the first ones to start surrendering.
They're the reserves.
They're reserves. That's where I would be if I were a Lamanite. I'd be in the back, and I'd be like, "Oh shoot, okay, hey, I'm done."
That's true.
That's exactly where I would be.
That's true.
And just to point this out too, like this whole phenomena of only a section of your line or a section of your army like starting to surrender while the other side's fighting, that's very common in ancient battles. It happens all the time. Yeah. Just do a quick ChatGPT look.
You don't have radio or anything to tell the whole army, hey, stand down.
Right. So yeah, and by some means, I think Moroni is able to, like you read in the verse, he gets them all, the rest to surrender, like, hey, give up, guys, you're surrounded somehow. Yeah. And eventually they do all surrender. Let's see here.
Verse 39, those who would not surrender and those who would not deliver up their swords were taken bound, and their weapons of war were taken from them, and they were compelled to march with their brethren into the line of battle. So if they didn't surrender, they made them surrender.
Right. Yeah. I don't know how they did. Mormon doesn't go into details.
I wonder if there's because it happens another time where they kill prisoners who don't take the oath, right?
No. Well, at the Battle of Manti, actually, the last time where they were surrounded, there was a section of people that surrendered, but then Zerahemnah, this is 10 years.
Yeah, that's right.
Got them riled up, and then they started killing them again, and then they all surrendered. Maybe that same thing happened here. Doesn't say. But yeah, that's interesting. Anyway, so they take this surrendered force, these Lamanites, and they carted them off to Bountiful and put them to work building that border, building up that wall. I mean, building up the fortifications in Bountiful.
And I guess I do want to hit verse 40. The number of prisoners who were taken exceeded more than the number of those who had been slain. Yea, more than those who had been slain on both sides. So this is another thing about warfare that I didn't understand when I was younger was there's not like there are more people left alive after a battle than died. Right.
Yeah.
So there's so many prisoners that they have here, and it's a huge body of men that they're taking.
Yeah. Anyway, stunning victory. I'm ready to talk about what this all means and the implications.
Yep.
Like, super good job here. And maybe I'll start with what Mormon says. I'll do this in my Mormon voice. Let's see. And it came to pass that Moroni had thus gained a victory over one of the greatest of the armies of the Lamanites, and had obtained possession of the city of Mulek, which was one of the strongest holds of the Nephites. Strongest holds of the Lamanites in the land of Nephi. And thus he had also built a strong hold to retain his prisoners in Bountiful. That's what he did. Now, one thing to be fair, well, I'll just make this quick note. My whole theory, I guess our shared theory, that the fortifications are less strong the further from the border. I mean, Mormon does say this was one of the strongest holds. Perhaps, I don't know if Mormon's referring to the fortifications or actually the garrison. People. I don't know. You just have to speculate a lot when it comes to the Book of Mormon stuff, I think.
Because, I mean, who's talking about this? Mormon is going through and reading the history, and he's writing about it. So he's probably making some conjecture here on what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just have 2 bullet points here. Let's see. I just can't emphasize enough how tactically brilliant this whole thing was. Like, how Moroni pulled this off. And again, he did the same thing for it. I call the Battle of Manti, or the Battle of Riverside 10 years ago. Both of these battles are just oozing with Moroni's touch.
Yeah.
This, and I guess I'm putting all the credit on Moroni, but to your point, it's also Lehi right there, and his other commanders that he has, Teancum, who's a rock star. Oh, okay, Josh. As far as implications of this battle, dare I say this: if we were to take this Eastern theater of the Book of Mormon battle of 7 years, and were to compare that to the World War II Pacific theater, bear with me.
Okay.
All right. If Teancum blunting Amaleki's invasion 2 years previous, if that's what Midway did in the Pacific theater, then this Battle of Mulek is what the Guadalcanal campaign did for the Nephites. Here's what, just like in Guadalcanal, World War II, so, I mean, this is the first major offensive by the Nephites in the Eastern theater. Yes. Like, this is the first city they've retaken. And it's a huge drain on Lamanite manpower and their offensive potential in the area. Like, Jacob's army, this veteran force, these Lamanite rock stars are now prisoners. They're off the table, you know? And at the same time, like you said, there's still a lot of Nephites left over after this battle, and their offensive potential remains intact. Now, so I think, you know, and you can see this on the timeline. Like, this is the end of the beginning for the Lamanites in the Eastern. The beginning of the end. Yeah. Thank you. You know, Battle of Bountiful, they got blunted and they stopped. And here, Battle of Mulek is when the momentum shifts and it starts. And it basically doesn't come back.
Yeah. And one thing I would say about this battle is, well, I guess it's going into another battle that happens in the Southern Theater. What is it? Kumai, or Antipara. I'm not sure which battle it was, but we'll probably talk about it in another podcast. This same tactic is used by the Stripling warriors, by Helaman, right?
Helaman and Antipas.
Yeah. So this same strategy is used, and I've often heard to be like, man, Lamanites are so dumb. They got tricked twice in the same way. And I'm like, listen, those were 2 totally opposite sides of the continent, or the map, whatever, right?
The war.
Different theaters, different commanders. Like, they didn't know that this strategy was used on both sides. So it's not that the Lamanites were dumb and just didn't learn. It's that the war is bigger than you think it is. So.
Yeah, totally. And so I call it the Battle of the Wilderness, the one with the Stripling Wars and Antipas. And I think I'd like to talk about that in the next episode. So I think in the next episode, and funny enough, not to give it away, I think the point I want to make is when Antipas tried to pull the same thing off, it was actually a near disaster.
Yeah, that's true.
And we'll get into that, but I think we'll get into the next episode. We're coming up on time here. But yeah, for those that are still listening or watching. Thanks for sticking with us here. I think this concludes episode 1, Josh. The Battle of Mulek.
Battle of Mulek concluded. Until next time.
All right. See you, everybody.